Somebody left something on my door the other day. It said, Ted Cruz, toughest Texas. I mean, come on. If somebody called my wife a dog and said my daddy was in on the Kennedy assassination, I wouldn't be kissing their ass. You stick a finger in their chest and give them a few choice words. Or you drag their ass out by the woodshed and kick their ass, Ted. Come on, Ted.
Oh, my God.
You know, really, I had somebody tell me earlier that wasn't that good of an ad. It's a great ad because
Really
I
good.
don't know, maybe I'm just a redneck, but that's exactly what I've said off screen. If somebody like insulted my family, insulted my loved ones, I wouldn't be kissing their butt the way that Ted Cruz has for the past couple of years. That ain't Texas. I don't care what anybody says. This isn't about politics. At least from the South I was born and raised in. That ain't right the way Ted's been kissing up to a man who insulted his wife.
No.
That ain't right, and insulting his daddy.
And we're a long way from the Republican convention in Cleveland where Ted Cruz was up there getting booed. He's come all the way around on President Trump since he became president. That's a new ad targeting Ted Cruz, poking fun at his campaign slogan. The ad was released yesterday, paid for by the Political Action Committee, Fire Ted Cruz. It points out how the senator has aligned himself with President Trump despite Trump's repeated insults aimed at Cruz and his family during the campaign. The ad was directed by Richard Linklater and features the actor Sonny Carl Davis in character as the Texan he portrayed in Linklater's 2011 film Bernie. Meanwhile, today is the deadline to register to vote in Texas. The state already has set a record with nearly 15.7 million registrations in this year's midterms. Some people saying a Taylor Swift effect. Vote.org tells BuzzFeed they were up 65,000 registrations nationwide in the 24 hours since Taylor Swift told her Instagram followers she was voting for 2 Democrats in her home state of Tennessee. Registrations in Tennessee were up by more than 2,000. And Joe, Donald Trump, after hearing about Taylor Swift's endorsement, said, "I like her music 25% less now." That was his quote. I'm not sure where the bar was, how much he liked to begin with, so that could be a lot or a little, depending.
Yeah.
I'm sure that shatters Taylor.
Yeah.
But so she got a lot of people out to vote apparently from vote.org. Look what you made me do.
There you go.
You know, Willie, it's that's for my kids. You know, Willie, it's really interesting that you like that. It's really interesting that I had somebody tell me last night that Ted Cruz ad was not that good. Oh. That was that was a Yankee from New York City, because I can guarantee you that speaks to, I don't know if it moves a vote or not, but that certainly would speak again to the South that I knew, where somebody insulting your wife or somebody insulting your father would not go over very well. I thought it was a very effective ad. Tough as Texas. He's not tough as Texas. He snivels in Donald Trump's shadow.
Well, we'll see if it moves voters, because he's doing okay in the polls, a little better than he was a couple of weeks ago even. We're going to hop over to California. MSNBC correspondent Jacob Sobroff is here with a look at what matters most to some voters in Southern California. Jacob, what'd you find out?
Joe's right, the Dodgers, first of all. But secondly, I think that guy in that ad could beat any candidate running in the United States of America right now. And that's sort of part of the problem with what we saw out in California. Most people think California is this uber liberal state. Those people probably have not been to Orange County, where there are 4 contiguous congressional districts that are Republican held, and Hillary Clinton won. Democrats are trying to flip those districts, but I think they have a lot of work on their hands. Watch this, you guys.
Los Angeles, downtown's Union Station probably isn't where you'd think to start a quest to find some of the most traditionally Republican territory in America. The biggest county in America is also one of its more diverse and Democratic. But if you take a short train ride south, the politics can seem a world apart.
It used to be that when you're going from LA to Orange County, you cross through what I guess political pundits would call the orange curtain, because you'd go from a very Democratic area into a very Republican area. But this year, back in Washington, the Democrats are hoping that's changing.
So you all live in Orange County?
Yes.
If you watch the news, all you hear about is Brett Kavanaugh, right? The guy
yes,
who's...
that's
What, Gloria?
No, that's all you hear about. So, you know, it's hard to think about something else, and all you hear is about Kavanaugh.
Do you think that that's what you're going to be thinking about when you go into the polling booth on Election Day?
I hope not.
You hope not.
I hope not.
What are the things you'd rather be thinking about?
Traffic and pollution.
Traffic and pollution.
We hopped off the train in Irvine so we, like good Californians, could carpool with the rest of our team. Democrats' hopes of winning here hinges, at least in part, on turning out people of color and young voters. So we headed to the local University of California campus.
This is In-N-Out Burger, legendary California institution. If you want to know what Californians think, this is where you have to come. What do people care about in Irvine?
Myself and a lot of my friends are like minorities, so we're a lot into like minority rights and stuff.
Are there enough of you guys to actually flip the district?
I hope so.
Bus stop at UC Irvine. There are, I think, 26,000 kids that go to school here. And if the Democrats can get all of them to vote for them, then maybe Republicans will be in trouble in this district. But I don't know. Sorry, not to be annoying, but we're with NBC News, and I'm just trying to figure out, is anybody here going to vote in the election on November 6th? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody's going to vote? Is anybody going to vote in the congressional election in November? You are. Thank you, sir. Yeah. What do you care about?
What do I care about?
Yeah.
School.
School. What about you? I'll walk with you to the bus stop. You guys get on this bus?
Yeah.
So if you were going to vote, what is the thing that's going to get your vote?
Probably school and expensive.
I was going to say, you're not talking about the issues that people talk about on the news all the time. The Russia investigation, the Supreme Court. You don't watch that stuff?
I don't watch news.
Are you registered to vote?
Not yet.
Not yet. How old are you?
18.
18. So this could be your first election.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you could decide whether or not the House of Representatives is in Democratic or Republican control. Are you thinking about all that?
Not currently. Maybe if I took more time to like get informed about like what's going on right now in politics. I assume that the people voting have at least some idea of who they're voting for.
Are you going to vote?
I should. We're like the most unreliable voter demographic, so I should vote to like increase those numbers, you know?
Well, that's what the Democrats want. But they can't count on you guys necessarily.
No. Slowly, if you keep asking us these questions, the rest of the people our age are gonna keep doing it. They're like, oh man, better vote. All the old people telling us to vote now.
Oh, am I old?
No.
Older, sorry.
Dude. Once you have a kid, you're old, unfortunately. So, Joe, earlier I was watching you, and you were saying how the Democrats were failing miserably to connect with people across the country. I talked to the Secretary of State of California yesterday, and we have automatic voter registration in California right now. The #1 party that people are opting into is not the Democrats or the Republicans. It's no party preference at all. So both of these parties are failing miserably, as you could see at the bus stop, obviously, to sign people up.
You know, I always had, I had younger kids, younger people in my district, always asking why I only advertised on talk radio when I did radio. Why didn't I advertise on, stations that younger voters listen to? And I said, you don't vote. You don't vote. I could do it, but I'd be wasting my money. I'm here to talk to you to try to get you to vote. But yeah, it is remarkable that these students that have crushing debt, that are going to have crushing debt when they get out of college, that have crushing debt from what the federal government's dumping on them, that are growing up in an America that it could be radically different than what they expected, that they remain just as disengaged today as always.
Not only that, but these districts, these 4 contiguous districts in Orange County are all within striking distance for the Democrats. So if these young voters chose to tune in, they could literally be the ones, there's 26,000 of them at UC Irvine alone, to actually flip the district. But they're more concerned with the issues that they think about when they wake up, like what time their classes. It's pretty shocking. I will say, in their defense, a lot of time when you watch what's going on in Washington, D.C., they feel like they don't have faith in our institutions. And so when they see Brett Kavanaugh yelling or Christine Blasey Ford feel like her story doesn't get through, I feel like, we were talking about this earlier, they don't feel like they have an incentive to get up and actually go to the polls.
Yeah, Michael Steele, this is same as it ever was as far as young voters go. It is impossible to get young voters out at a high level. This year, the big question is, for Democrats, are they going to be able to get out Hispanic voters, black voters, younger voters, and other demographic groups that should be flooding out in support of them?
Yeah, Joe, that's going to be the ongoing issue over the next 3 weeks as early voting has started now in many states around the country. So that's a separate turnout effort from what you do on the ground election day. The other piece of that, and what is so, I think, poignant and important about Jacob's piece is that these voters, while they may be, if they had something exciting to get them to the polls, there's still no guarantee that that would do it. There's just something about younger voters when it comes to the civic responsibility of voting and participation that they just don't connect to. And both parties, quite honestly, as much as Democrats talk about it, the run-up to that effort on Election Day is not as effective as they'd like to brag. There's still a lot of work in this regard. And both parties fail miserably at it.
Lee, I'll go back to the poll I mentioned earlier. NBC News poll from August. Only 55% of millennials, a huge voting bloc, say they intend to go out and vote in the midterm elections.
I know, and that's surprising because, companies are falling all over themselves to get millennial employees, and one of the things they care more about are social issues than ever before. But one thing, just getting back to Joe's point about Taylor Swift, I think one way to connect with them is music. I mean, I don't know the demographic of those new registrations that we saw after Taylor Swift, but that is where a lot of these, young voters connect. There's an organization called Headcount that targets its voter registration in the jam band community, followers of Phish and the like. And Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead's on the board. They've registered 500,000 voters, nonpartisan, but registration. And you go to where they are, and they sign up. Will they vote? That's another question.
Well, you can certainly understand that, though, and certainly from your piece, Jacob. I mean, sure, they like Eddie Vedder, they like Taylor Swift, they like the music. Nobody likes what they hear out of Washington.
Right.
Specifically, people of that age group. I mean, that was so obvious from sitting on the curb waiting for the bus. They're not going to vote. They don't like what they hear.
Right.
100%. I mean, there's nothing else to say other than politicians in Washington at some point have to realize that fighting with each other, yelling at each other all the time is just turning people off all across the country. And these young people, if it doesn't stop, will never go out to vote, many of them.
Jacob Sovra, thank you very much. And Lee, thank you as well.